Hello and welcome to Any Build and Grow's Zoom tutorial for online teaching. I'm Michael, Chief ELT Editor at Build and Grow, and today I'll be showing you some of the basic features of Zoom and how you can incorporate them into your online lessons. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open Zoom. And here we will be directed to the home screen. Now, I'm going to click Schedule because I want to schedule my meeting first and foremost. And we're going to start by typing in the name of our meeting. And here we're going to choose the date, the time, and the duration. Now, what I like to do is I like to go a little bit over. So let's say that my class is 1 hour long. I'll choose 1 hour and 15 minutes so that I have a little bit of extra time and I can end the meeting at any time anyway. Now, one really cool feature that we have here is the recurring meeting feature. So if your class happens every week on the same day at the same time, you can just click this button and your students won't have to have a new link each time that they want to log in to the meeting. So here for the meeting ID, I just let it generate automatically. I don't want to require a password because again, only my students will have the link to my meeting. So it's not really necessary. Now for video, it really depends on the teacher's preference. I like to keep my video off and the video for my students off because I don't want anybody to come into the room not being ready. So I want to give my students a chance to get ready and then turn their video on. For audio, I'm going to choose, in my case, computer audio because I'm using a computer, but you can choose telephone and computer audio if you'd like. And the calendar doesn't really matter. Now, for advanced options, this is a really interesting feature here. Enable waiting room lets you keep your students in a waiting room so that you can let them into the meeting one by one. I like to leave this option, enable join before host, off because I don't want my students in my meeting room before I get there. I'm usually going to be there at least 20 minutes early anyway, so I want to make sure that I'm prepared before I let them in. And this feature is really useful, mute participants on entry. So a little bit later, I'm going to talk about why we should mute our students, and it has a lot to do with audio and being able to hear what is being said during the lesson. And authenticated users, something that I'm not really interested in. And we don't want to automatically record the meeting. We can choose to do that if we'd like to later on. Now, I've already scheduled a meeting, so I'm going to cancel this. And I have my meeting set up here. So I'm going to go to the meetings icon here. And this is the meeting that I've scheduled. Now, if I click Show Meeting Invitation, I'm going to see all of this information that the program generates automatically. And this is what I'm going to send to my students. So if you look here, you will see that this is the link that they're going to click on to join our meeting. And once they click on this link, it will redirect them automatically to our meeting room. So I'm going to copy this invitation, and then I'm going to paste it into the body of the email that I'm sending. And that's how my students are going to be able to access my meeting. Now, let's go ahead and get the meeting started so you can see how it looks. All right, so now that we're in our meeting room, we're going to go ahead and start our video. And the video looks good, perfect. We're going to check our audio and make sure that it's working. And here, this green color indicates that it's working just fine. Now we're going to click on Manage Participants, and we're going to see the students who are waiting to come into the meeting room. So I've got two students here. I'm going to admit both of them. And one thing I like to do is I'm going to mute all of my students so that the audio from their computers isn't interfering with my presentation. So my students are here and they're muted, and I'm going to unmute them to make sure that they can hear me and that I can hear them. So let me go ahead and unmute Ron first. So hello, Ron, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. And then I'll unmute Young and do the same thing. Hello, Young, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Nice. Okay, now as you can see, the program automatically spotlights the speaker. Whoever's talking is going to be up in the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click my screen here, and I'm going to spotlight my video so that I'm always the one in the main gallery. And if I want to, I can get rid of that and spotlight someone else so that whenever they speak, they're in the front. Okay, now, sometimes students have problems with their audio, so I like to use the chat feature and to make sure and check if everything is okay. So I'm going to say, if you cannot hear me, please say hi. And this will let me know if there are some students who are having technical difficulties, so we can go ahead and address that before we get started with our lesson. Now, when you have lots of students in a situation like this, in a remote learning environment, one thing that you can do to organize how the students respond and how you interact with them is to use the group chat. So of course, everyone is muted. So what I'm going to ask my students to do is, if they want to answer a question, they can go ahead and type hi in the chat box, and I will let them, or I'll give them an opportunity to respond. So I'm going to ask a question, and then I want my students to type in hi. So Ron and Young, can you please type hi? All right, so I got a response from Young, so that means that now I'm going to give the floor to Young. I'm going to unmute her and let her respond. So now that I've told my students what the expectations are, I'm going to go ahead and start my lesson. So one of the great things about Zoom is how flexible the program is when it comes to incorporating things from the classroom into your remote learning lesson. Now, my favorite feature is the share screen feature, which gives us lots and lots of tools to incorporate classroom exercises. So here, I'm going to click on my Come On Everyone module. I'm going to share. And now my students are going to see this on their screens. Now, I want to show my students something different, but I don't want them to see me toggling through these various menus. So one thing that I can do is I'm going to pause share so that they see this. And in the meantime, I will look for different things, and I'm going to prepare the next slide. So I'm going to click New Share. I'm going to click on this PowerPoint that I want to show them. I'm going to hit Share. And now I'm going to resume share. And the transition from the previous screen to this screen will be a lot smoother, and it will make your lesson a lot more professional looking. Right now, another thing I can do here is I can annotate. So this function is really useful. Sometimes I need to draw on the screen, or I want to incorporate some text. So here I've got my red pencil. I'm going to circle this section here. If I need to erase, I can do that. I can type some text. So I'm going to type in hat here. And finally, we've got another useful tool, which is the whiteboard tool. A whiteboard tool is just like what it says. It's a whiteboard, and here you can do the same thing that you were doing before. You can write text, you can draw, and you can do all kinds of things you would do in the classroom. So when it comes to group work, one great thing about Zoom is that it allows you to put your students into small groups. So we're going to use this breakout rooms icon here, feature, and I'm going to put my students into different rooms. Now, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to make 2 rooms so that each of my students is in a separate room. I'm going to create the rooms. Now I see that they're each in a room. I'm going to open the rooms, and they're going to all be placed into the rooms that they've been assigned, where they can talk about whatever it is that the teacher has asked them to discuss. Now, if I want to join any of these rooms, I can do so, and I can move from room to room and join. So here I'm going to join the first one, and it's going to take a couple of moments, but what this will do is it'll put me in the small group so that I can discuss things with the students here. So I'm with Young now. I'm going to leave the room, return to the main session, and then I can do the same thing with Ron's group. So I'm still in the breakout rooms, and here they are. I can join this one if I want to. Now I'm going to close all the rooms. And now that I've closed the rooms, all of my students should be back at the main meeting, and I go back and spotlight myself. So one great tool for review or to allow your students to go back and check some of the things that you talked about in the lesson is the record option. So the two options that you see here, one of them is going to allow you to record using your computer's memory, and the other one is going to send it to the cloud. However, you should be aware that if you record to the cloud, it will only let you record 0.5 gigabytes per session, and afterwards you'll have to pay for that. So keep that in mind. And once you record and you end your meeting, you'll see a screen pop up with a folder that has the video that you've just recorded in it. And that is our basic introduction to online teaching with Zoom. Speaking of Zoom, Build and Grow will be hosting a live teacher training webinar series. For more information on the topics we'll cover and how to register, please click the link in the description. Till then, best of luck with your online lessons and stay safe. Thanks for watching.